Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, it's great to be back with you and talking about language and communication, of course, is our main thing. And I tell you, I'm really disheartened by the scorched earth, communication that's going on right now coming out of the White House with regards to the impeachment vote.
It's so significant to allow or to be an environment. It's not so much allow, but it's our environment is allowing this scorched earth languaging to take place instead of voices that would stand for values instead of standing for loyalties. See, we could do a loyalty or an identity towards a party or a team. And Tom, you and I can talk about the difference between your favorite team and my favorite football team or whatever. And we could get in some arguments, and I can most certainly feel some disappointments about teams that I sort of stand for and teams that you stand for that have won a bunch. So there could be some problems because those teams, might have, just had talented people on them, and the teams I had didn't have those talented people, and I'm just mad about it, right? So the problem, though, when we get into a scorched earth messaging mindset that we're currently in, is very important values that Americans and other cultures stand for start to get diminished. And then as soon as if I fly to a foreign country and say, I'm from America, I'm not getting the brand respect or the credibility in those places because of this style of languaging that is coming out of our leaders. And we do elect our own leaders, and it doesn't mean that all of our leaders are perfect. It just means that many times a leader looks at the good of the whole as well as the value of the brand over everything else. So the value of our brand is we put another layer of laws in place, and we have a layer of ethics that really are supposed to protect three things: the value of fairness, the value of integrity, and the value of respect, as well as safety. We don't want people to hurt each other. Yet, those four things, if we're not following our values, if we're not following our laws, if we're not following our ethics, then things like fairness go under the bus. Integrity goes under the bus, and then respect goes under the bus, and then finally safety will go under the bus. And the phrase "go under the bus" means, for me, is that one person doesn't value that in another person, and that's what the Constitution was really trying to frame. is that we had these values, these laws, and these ethics in a republic that stood for fairness and integrity and respect and safety. And it's not taking place. And then eventually what happens is there's going to be an erosion of freedoms. And that's the thing that most people can't see that's coming next.
And that's the scary part for me. It's like this scorched earth policy is leading to scary, is it scary honesty or scary dishonesty?
Well, it's scary from the place of safety, as well as it's scary for the place of equality, because fairness and equality, kind of like have a strong relationship to each other. Is like, hey, if this human being gets this other human being gets this. It's the same thing. But wait a minute, no, they don't. I should get more. And then all of a sudden we're in a middle school 13-year-old discussion about what the word fairness means. And fairness for many, many young people does not mean equality. The reason why it doesn't mean equality is because a lot of times the child mind is really, I get all the marbles, you don't. I get my marbles, and I get to go home. Right? Yeah. So the benefits of having values and laws and ethics is that we get to experience a society that has greater ability to speak and fight for truth, a greater ability to speak and fight for trust, and advocate for trust, is more stable, is more consistent, and the worth of every human being, gets to be valued. And regrettably, some places on the world, those values you don't get to have.
Well, and it appears like the current occupant of the White House is just throwing all these values under the bus, like you were saying.
Right. Yeah, because we all have a need for truth. The challenge is that if who do I want? Whose truth do I want? Do I want my 13-year-old's truth to run the world? No, I don't want his truth to run the world because he's got some limitations of truth. But if somebody can have the belief and mindset of a younger person and believe that this is the way the world really works because they've been getting away with it since that age, and you can see how, take all the marbles and go home. It's like, it's really, really hard. So let's talk about the damage, okay, and and what is actually happening. Because this is a show about language, and it's if somebody uses and speaks in a certain language structure, that is the thing that starts the fire, is the match that a person can throw. So as soon as somebody throws a match of criticism, does it make some sense that if a person doesn't know better, that they would criticize back?
Sure.
Right.
It makes some sense.
Makes some sense. If somebody's being defensive, does it make some sense that somebody might also have the posture of defensive-ness?
It does.
Okay.
I think it's a natural knee-jerk reaction, right?
Right. And then if somebody has the experience of contempt, I don't like you or your party because you did something and your party stands for or does something or advocates for a certain group that I don't agree with, then they're going to have this contempt or this bitterness that is going to be expressed. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
Now, here's when it gets really difficult. How long can we keep doing this?
Boy, I don't know.
Can you imagine used criticism, defensiveness, bitterness, contempt. Eventually, what people that wind up happening is that they get tired, and then they start to withdraw. And that's what you see. That's called obstruction. When you withdraw from a denial after you've criticized and became defensive and thrown a bunch of contempt, I don't care what you're doing, and then withdraw. And that's called the second article of impeachment is obstruction. I'm not going to let you talk to any of my people, and we're going to withdraw because we don't like what you're doing. And then, of course, we're going to get other people to criticize. Okay, so now all of a sudden you've got these four things that are showing up: criticism, defensiveness, contempt, withdraw. And it makes the conversation now very, very narrow, because all that's left is blaming and shaming. And you can see how it's really, really hard now to come back from and build respect when human beings get stuck in blaming and shaming. And there's almost like there's nothing to say left, because when somebody blames something to another person, the person just shuts down. They just go like, I'm not going to talk anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Boy, and I'll tell you, it also seems that it feels like we're through the looking glass here. I mean, we're really in a bizarre world right now where, certain people say, hey, the impeachment process is valid. It's the law. It's the Constitution. And then you've got the president saying it's completely unconstitutional. I mean, he just throws it right back,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
So how do you do this? How do you defeat it? How do you what do you respond? So I don't know. Why don't you try it out? Say this back to me, and you and I'll role play, and watch how I am going to build an alliance with you, no matter how many times you might criticize or defend or withdraw or contempt. So give me a sentence that you've noticed that's been very difficult for your ears to hear.
that the Democrats in Congress are waging an unconstitutional impeachment witch hunt.
So it sounds like you would like some agreement and you would like some support. And the way you're reading the Constitution is that you're not a person that the word impeachment is to be assigned to. You don't want to be assigned the word impeachment.
No, I don't. It's a nasty word.
So you'd really like respect, and you'd really like respect and acknowledgement or recognition for how much of a bottom line leader you are and how direct you are with the things you say.
Yes.
And you're also, I'm guessing, that you don't want to be known as a political person. You like to be known as a person that gets things done and it's your way or the highway, correct?
Absolutely. We've gotten more things done than any president in history.
So you like some acknowledgement and recognition of all the things you've done up to this point.
Yes.
Okay. And you really enjoy getting progress for the nation. Is that correct?
Yes.
The person okay, so let's take a pause in this. It didn't matter the criticism or defensive sentence that you said, or whatever the blaming or judgmental response that you brought, Tom, because all I just did was you would just stay on your side a little bit.
Yeah. Can you imagine what would happen if a reporter did that, interviewing the president?
Yeah. There would be all kinds of new levels of truth that he would start speaking about how he really struggles with following rules and how he struggles about getting his own choices, as well as, people acknowledging how difficult that is for him. That's what he would go into. He'd go into, poor me, or I should have gotten this, or, this reminds me of another time that I get fairness.
Yeah, or he typically says no president should ever have to go through this. Right.
That's right.
That's part of what he says is, no, this is terrible. No president should ever have to go through this. And
yeah,
I don't.
His mindset of a president is very much like, I get to make the things and people got to follow what I'm saying. Meanwhile, it doesn't matter if somebody's been studying economy or economics their whole life, or finance their whole life, or manufacturing their whole life. He thinks he knows. That leaves off the ability to be humble and the ability to really take advice and learn and turn and listen better. So.
Well, so this was an interesting quote that I want to share with you that came out of the letter the White House, or that the president really signed and sent to Nancy Pelosi, protesting the impeachment vote.
Yes.
And he said, the articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary Committee are not recognizable under any standard of constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisprudence. And we've all seen on the television in the judiciary hearings that, in fact, there were several constitutional scholars which were reporting not only constitutional theory, but also interpretation and jurisprudence, that, in fact, everything going on is completely constitutional. What the Judiciary Committee and all the process of interviewing the witnesses has been completely within the Constitution. So it's very
so let's stay with that moment.
Yeah.
So when an accusation that comes in like that, notice how you went to try to explain truth.
Yeah, it probably put some people to sleep listening, didn't it?
Well,
maybe you.
No, I mean, you are spot on. The way you explained truth was really great, but the explanation of something does not carry the vibrational currency to be able to get the listener to agree with somebody.
Wow, there's a quote. Vibrational currency. That's a great phrase.
Yeah, explanation and even problem solving does not carry the vibrational currency to overcome somebody's belief. Just doesn't. But empathy does. But explanation and problem solving doesn't have enough juice. So if I'm giving empathy to the sentence, it's going to sound a little bit more like, yeah, you really want me to hear, Mr. Trump, President Trump, you'd like me to read that you have the thought that it's outside of the Constitution. Meanwhile, I have the thought that it is in the Constitution. And even though you're saying that your thought is it's not constitutional, my experience, as well as what I'm reading here right in front of me, has some constitutional track. That means I'm following this. I'm not necessarily going to follow your guidance.
Well, then the president used to say, well, everybody's saying, lots of people are saying that this is unconstitutional. He always throws it in. Lots of people are saying, everyone is saying, and of course, without attributing who is saying, but just sort of putting it out there on a vibration level that everybody's saying this. Like, there's overwhelming support and opinion out there.
One of the things Trump's been really good at is, even in Iowa, I mean, when he lost Iowa, he was like number 4 in Iowa, right? When he lost Iowa, he stood in front of a bunch of Iowans and said, gosh, aren't people in Iowa the most stupid people ever? Well, guess what happened? He jumped back up into the front because they're so stupid that they didn't vote for me. You call it, well, no one wants to be stupid. I guess I'll vote for you so I'm not stupid.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's like the person does not want to be associated with. And one of the things that he's really, really, really good at is making a statement to meet his need for respect and recognition, which our society and our business system gives, and it pushes a lot of respect to two different groups of people in our society: rich people and famous people and celebrities. We push in those two directions. We give them respect that many of them do not deserve. We give them choices, many of them that take advantage of it. I mean, these are people, that because they're rich or they're famous, that people will come up and literally, help them do all kinds of tragic things to others because they're with this rich person or they're with this famous person.
I'm struggling, Bill.
I know America's self-worth and respect is struggling. That is exactly the right feeling. Your body's working perfectly, Tom.
Yeah.
Your body's working perfect because it's upsetting on my side from the perspective of, most specifically speaking, is when somebody is using the language of criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and withdrawal, the language of blaming and shaming. What they're really doing is just scorching the relationship, scorching the other person, and scorching their job.
Well, let's talk about that vibration for a minute.
Sure.
The only thing I'm seeing right now, I mean, the Democrats are trying to stay in the place of we're following the rules where we can't let them, we're going to vote on impeachment because we can't let them get away with impacting the next election. And if we don't follow through, then he'll keep doing it or do it again. He may keep doing it or do it again anyway. But the only thing that I'm hearing coming out of like Nancy Pelosi battling all this scorched earth messaging is I'm praying for him.
It's all she's got. It's not strong enough. The vibration is not strong enough.
It's very low. So if you were the Democratic leadership, and that could be Nancy Pelosi, it could be Adam Schiff, it could be Jerry Nadler, any of these committee leaders that are chair people, leaders in the House, and maybe leaders in the Senate. It could even be a Chuck Schumer or somebody like that. How can they communicate at a similar vibration level against this scorched earth messaging?
So it might start like this. Hi, I'm Nancy Pelosi. See, I'll start right there. I'm Nancy Pelosi, or I'm Chuck Schumer, and I'm here to speak about restoring integrity and respect to America. Okay. Start there. I like to restore our respect and integrity to our system of law and the values that we stand for. We're here not to impeach a president. I am not interested in impeaching a president. Notice what I just did is I did something very counterintuitive there. I'm not interested in impeaching a president. I am not interested in that. What I'm interested in is restoring the respect for law, the standing for values, and making sure the ethics that we choose to follow, we follow through on. If somebody can't play and participate with inside the laws and inside the ethics that we participate in, that's not good for America and what America stands for. So we're here to take a vote to do something to stand for respect, truth, integrity, safety, it is not safe to have somebody to make a decision that is not inside the framework. This is not inside our framework. We took an oath to follow the framework. That's what we did.
Well, that sounds, you're right. I mean, it seems like the Democrats' messaging is talking about the wrong things, because they're more in that place of explanation.
That's correct. They're trying to explain to get to people to understand. I don't want people to understand at all. I don't need them to understand anything, because most of them already understand this piece. What I want to get the people, the listeners, to do is to grab onto a person that is going to fight for restoring respect, that is going to fight for restoring truth or trust, be okay if somebody doesn't meet the need for truth and trust. Doesn't matter what party, they've got to go. Doesn't meet the need for respect, they got to go.
Okay, I like that. I think that certainly would be helpful, but it's not as catchy, is it? I mean, the scorched earth, especially the messaging, and especially when it gets into labels, and this is what the president, as a marketer and brander, is very good at labeling people. Is it possible to have a counter label that is more in alignment with truth, fairness, integrity, respect, safety, our values, laws, and ethics? Or is, when you go to a label, is it not possible to do that? Is it descending into, the gutter of eventual, eventual blame and shame and, criticism and all that?
Exactly. That's the hard part about it. Is that the hard part about it, Tom, is is that you've got to frame it so it's a compelling message, not just a message that somebody knows that you put up there just because you're trying to think of something fancy. But if restoring as a concept of how do I restore integrity in the system, and know that people on both sides of the aisles make mistakes, but this is saying, well, I'm going to amplify the mistake. Now I got people walking on eggshells, and that's not going to help anybody, because we want truth instead of people complying to things.
So maybe it's really, what they need to do is adopt what I'm going to label here as the Superman defense, or maybe offense, right? Is when you were saying, and stick with me here, I'm gonna tie this together, but where you were saying, instead of saying, hey, I'm not interested in impeachment, I'm interested in fairness, I'm interested in integrity, I'm interested in respect for our values as a country, our laws. Well, it sounds like you're interested in truth, justice, and the American way, which, of course, if you remember in the old Superman comic strips or TV show, that was the thing. Truth, justice, and the American way. You might be able to purchase a little bit of that Make America Great Again.
Yes, that's right.
Message back.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Truth, justice, and the American way. The American way is standing for ethics and values. Many people don't necessarily see it that way, but that's what it stands for. The justice part is where the law system is going.
Right.
Truth is, you get to say your truth. It doesn't mean it's the full truth. It's just you get to speak truth. You get to speak towards it, at least. All right.
So that's interesting. So that's the high road, it sounds like.
That's the high road. So what we'll do next time when we get together is we're going to lay out some narratives that are going to provide some stability for the listener to restore trust around them, regain stability around them, create consistency around them at the local level and then at the state level. And then what happens is at the national level, that's a bigger discussion, but that big discussion can be completely influenced by what happens at a local level. You pass something at a local level, guess what? Things have got to, stay and make good. So there's a lot of really neat things that can take place here. So.
Okay, Bill. I look forward to that.
All right, Tom, have a good one, and we'll talk to you next time.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.